Welcome to this edition of Thought to Action. I'm Chris Cordani, your host. We have some exciting news. We're developing Project Sentinel. With me to talk about that is Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, who will be the president of Project Sentinel, the Project Sentinel chairman, Navy Captain Pete O'Brien, and Project Sentinel's Second Amendment project leader, Lieutenant Colonel Tim Wilson. Tony, this has been in the works for some time and will soon be officially unveiled. Let's get into Project Sentinel's mission.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And Chris, we plan on bringing Chris with us as well. So it's kind of like a merry group of gentlemen who missed out on being able to go see Jesus on his birth, and we're just the second best thing. So we're just trying to get that together as kind of the fallback to the three wise men, So just so anyway, moving forward with the thought. Project Sentinel is an outgrowth of one of our other board members, Bennett McFadder. Bennett has been adamant. I wouldn't be putting too much of a slight descriptor on the fact he's been on my butt, so to speak, to create something that is focused not only on what Dr. London wanted to do, and Herb and the London Center, I think, through his great leadership and what we've been able to do after he passed, is notable and significant. We've hit way above our weight class regarding influencing policy and governance through the Trump administration until now. But that's not good enough. We feel it's time to actually advocate more directly for what many would call the core issues of the Republic, and that being the Bill of Rights. The first 10 amendments of to the Constitution, Bill of Rights, I think have been neglected and ignored far too long. And I think it's that bedrock that we must go back to affirm the importance of those amendments and reestablish policies which are based on those amendments. And so Project Sentinel is that. That is the focus of Project Sentinel, to reestablish not only the appreciation of the hard work of George Washington, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Hamilton, all the other founding fathers, all the great work they did, but not only recognize it, but find a way to emulate it, to bring it back. Because so many of the things that happened during the Revolutionary War, I would argue we're faced with again. And this is one of those great issues, is like there's the left is always talking about, everybody on the conservative side wants revolution. It's like, no, as a matter of fact, that's not what the conservative side wants. They want to return to values that establish the country. That's one of the grand ironies. Like, nobody I know wants to revolt. It's the idea of bringing back what's important. So Project Sentinel is going to do that. We're going to be advocates for the Constitution. We're going to be those people, I'd like to believe, who will be critical to helping to educate the public, bring into focus the necessity to create policies driven by Congress and established by the executive branch, which actually are in line with the original concepts of the Constitution and the Founding Fathers. And so that's it. That's the basic concept. And the focus initially is going to be the First, Second, Fourth, and 10th Amendment. And I think those are a good group of amendments to focus on as the focus of what we'll be doing. And so that's it. Chris, back over to you. You can jump in and however you want to bring in the rest of the folks talking about.
Well, have you noticed the First, Second, Fourth, and 10th Amendments took quite a beating in recent, I was going to say recent days, but recent years. The Fourth, especially in recent weeks.
Oh, yeah.
We can get into that. We do have the Second Amendment project that we also had with the London Center for Policy Research. That's going to continue. Tim, let's talk about some of the focus of the Second Amendment project and some of the things we can do as we further progress with the Project Sentinel.
Well, one of the reasons I support Project Sentinel so heavily, the founding fathers truly were political geniuses, as well as for their time, very savvy people and serious thinkers. And the Second Amendment was recognized by them as key to protecting all the others. But my particular thing is that Tony is quite right. The Bill of Rights sustains everything that we hold as American values, and that is what's been ground down and lost over over preceding decades. There is one measure by which you can tell just how smart the Bill of Rights was, and that is the success of America. And those founding fathers believed in the basic inherent strengths and goodness and hard work and so many other good qualities of the American people and the American citizen. And that is what is being ground down by centralized government trying desperately to take power away from the people to gather it to themselves.
Right.
And the one thing, if you like, the other side, the gun control people in particular, do not seem to understand is that importance of the Second Amendment to ensuring our freedom from tyranny.
The First Amendment also has been chipped away at over the last, well, I'll say few decades, but very recently, especially thanks to technology. Pete, you have written a lot about freedom of speech and things that are happening on the London Center for Policy Research website. You're going to be doing that a lot more with Project Sentinel, but now leading Project Sentinel. Let's talk about some of the attacks on the First Amendment and how we're going to be approaching those.
Well, it's interesting. I saw another one this morning. I don't remember. There's so many. I don't remember the specific details, but it was an issue of a Twitter account being pared back. Oh, it was a candidate. I do remember, or a candidate running for office, state office, not federal office, in Florida, and there was a picture of her with Donald Trump, and she was saying that the tagline underneath the picture was, I stand for America, words to that effect. That was considered inappropriate for Twitter. And she wasn't allowed to post the picture. I find that sort of thing truly remarkable. And the simple idea that somehow not only that it's a political campaign, and therefore somehow they're censoring a political campaign, which is a hideous idea all by itself. But also the idea, of course, that the particulars of that seem to rub them wrong. The idea that you can be for America, just a remarkable set of developments intellectually, that we've gone from where we were, this very much pro patriotism position that was nearly universal, not even 10 years ago, to where we are now. And I'll throw this out. If you want to look at something remarkable, the Superman movie made, I want to say 2011, with Cavill is the man's name. I think that's his last name. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. No, I apologize. Nothing offends you more than someone who can't pronounce your name right. But he makes a very, very pro-American statement, waving the flag almost, in the middle of the movie. And it struck me as I was watching the movie while working out. And so it's a kind of bizarre set of circumstances is that I'm sitting there working out, listening to this short speech. And it occurred to me he wouldn't be allowed to make that speech today in Hollywood. It was 11 years ago. That's a horrible commentary on where we stand today. And I really think that anybody who values his own freedom of action needs to take a really hard look at the First Amendment and our chipping away at it, as Tony said, and immediately push back. We can't let go of that amendment. The comment made by several of our founding fathers, I think Jefferson was the first one to make it, is that above all else, he would value a free press, that there are all sorts of things, but if you don't have a free press, if you don't have the ability for people to get out there and if you want to call it that ranting and raving, they should be allowed to rant and rave. And that the ability of a government or people acting essentially in concert with the government to suppress free speech is a terrifying possibility, and we need to all push back. I'd also add one other thought that has to do more broadly with what we're trying to get at here with Sentinel, and that is that people shouldn't believe, and I know I've heard this said of some people, by some people, that we believe in the founding fathers as if it's some sort of religion, and that we believe in their ideas because they said it. That's exactly opposite of the truth. The point here is the founding fathers recognized what can only be called universal truths. They recognize that the way people act, the way people perform publicly and privately hasn't changed for the last 6,000 years. It's not going to change, arguably, for the next 6,000 either. And that you need to take account for the fundamentals of the individual and the fundamentals of people acting in groups, and that governments all tend to move in the same direction. Governments tend to move towards centralization. They all do. Start with Imhotep laying out the idea for the bureaucracy that governed the flooding and harvesting and planting and harvesting in Egypt, and 5,300 years ago, whatever it was, or I'm sorry, it might have been more than that. But that idea of the centralized control and what became very centralized control in the terms of ancient Egypt, that's nothing changed. If you walk downtown Washington D.C. right now, go into the average bureaucracy in Washington D.C., you'll see the same kind of thinking. And the Bill of Rights and the thoughts of our founding fathers in developing a government of limited powers was to curtail that motion.
That's it. That's the most important point of the lot. The Bill of Rights delineates rights which are not privileges given by the government. They are the rights of every individual. And that is something so worth fighting for.
You will also be seeing Project Sentinel in the media. You'll be seeing us do our program here. We'll be doing a lot of this in the future, and there will be more videos, more audio podcasts as well. But like the London Center, Project Sentinel will be doing a lot behind the scenes. So Tony, talk about that.
So one of the failures, I believe, of many think tanks is to not adequately ensure that the policies and concepts they come up with are actually put into motion, put into action. And I think this is a function both of fear and bureaucracy, because so often organizations which say big things don't necessarily want them to come true. And this is because often large organizations, and I'm friends with a few of the folks who run these other large organizations, become very happy with the number of donors and trustees they have, and they become, I don't want to say less than effective. They still are effective in the space that they function, but they're not as aggressive as I think they could be. And I think there's a balance to be had between Project Veritas, which is very aggressive, do great work. And I'm not criticizing anything that they do, but there needs to be a balance between what Veritas does and what Judicial Watch does, because right now Judicial Watch does a great job of litigation. They put things into the public view that need to be. They've been leading on the whole Mar-a-Lago raid thing, rightfully so. But there needs to be a better understanding of what the other side is doing, a deeper understanding. And Chris, you mentioned the World Economic Forum, and to me, I'll be blunt, that's just pure evil. The whole idea of world governance, where everybody is reduced to a number, and that number is managed based on statistics. That's what they want, and it's frightening. Where they want to basically remove any spark of innovation and of life from human beings. And I just don't understand how people don't stand up and look at this. So it's one thing to recognize that and see it, to look at what they're saying online and read their documentation. Another thing to find out how they're trying to implement their policies, because they don't implement their policies through a fair democratic process related method. They do things through manipulation of social media, as Pete just said, and Tim just said. I think they're trying to, or Chris said, they're trying to use AI, advanced artificial intelligence, to basically edit the reality in which we live, so that information, even though it's not false, may be removed because, gee, it just doesn't fit with the narrative we want to tell. And that's very dangerous. And so we believe that we need to have an aggressive answer that goes and maps out everything that they do and say, to try to identify how they're doing the evil to undermine democracies. Don't let them fool you. Not a thing the World Economic Forum stands for has anything to do with the republic, the supporting the republic, or global democracy. It's all an aspiration to see big business and big government mesh together to control things. That's it. That's what they say. And so
it is true. It is true, and they actually depend on the extermination of Western governments' free constitutional republics.
So this is what we have to fight, and we want to fight that through aggressive intelligence collection. One might say aggressive operations to determine how they're doing things, because they are not open, they are not transparent about what they do. So we would like to bring them transparency. We will present them transparency on our dime. So that's part of what we want to fundraise for, is to actually do the hard work that should be done to keep track of these folks. So let me give you a recent example. Did y'all notice how somehow in the media it showed up that President Trump was keeping nuclear codes? Ooh, nuclear code. Oh my God, who doesn't want to secure nuclear codes? He could go down to the service station in Boca Chica and dial in a nuclear strike on Ukraine. Oh my God, we can't have that, right? Who put that into the media? So this is our challenge. Where did that even come from? It became mainstream media driven. So who put it in there? Where did it come from? Who promoted it? And oh, by the way, where'd it go? It's gone now. Oh, it's gone.
Can we just
like
Tony,
Bill Shatner in when he sings "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds"? She's gone.
So Transform Man was a great album.
So part of the idea has to be, let me finish, to determine who starts this nonsense, who promotes it, how it gets promoted, and map it back to the original, so you can point out who did it, why they did it, and how to prevent it in the future by just making sure that people are aware that things like this exist. This is exactly what we're talking about fighting as a part of the Project Sentinel mission. Sorry, Tim, I just wanted to
no, that's all right. It's just important to let people know that even if President Trump had kept his nuclear codes card, that does not mean he can go down to the nearest available nuclear missile site and launch missiles.
That's right.
It all gets changed when he leaves the presidency.
But my point, and anybody who's rational on our side understands this. Like, everybody look at us like, what? But the point, that wasn't their point. We weren't the audience they were going for. They were going for the audience who is emotional and sees nuclear codes. Oh, nuclear codes. Ooh, that's what I'm talking about. And that's what is used to manipulate a large part of the population who simply is not well informed, which I think is another problem. We could cover that another day. But the idea here is that was done for a purpose. That was done to create the frenzy that happened within the media. This is driven by the same intellectual bankrupt leadership that we see the World Economic Forum. It's all the same thing. It's all deception. It's all about information control and operations, and it's all about trying to create an emotional response rather than trying to rationally think through and use facts as a method of resolution. So there you go.
Exactly.
Just quickly on that one as well, let me just say, from the Second Amendment Foundation side, everything I try and do is I try really hard to find good, solid data to base it on.
Exactly.
The Sentinel project does the same, and I think I'd like to assure our viewers the one thing we will always work to do is to be honest and base our ideas on solid data and facts.
I think honesty and irony of pointing out the complete lunacy of their side is often fun to do. And boy, sometimes they make it just far too easy for us. But it's something that needs to be examined because, in all seriousness, this government corporate partnership that's being pushed by the World Economic Forum, being adopted by other governments in the form of Build Back Better. That's the code for the implementation of the concepts of reinventing capitalism as if it needs to be reinvented, which is trying to undermine the very concepts and policies which were established and, as Tim said, kept this country strong for the hundreds of years now that we've been going. So
Our viewers can also find out more about Project Sentinel on our website.
they can. As a matter of fact, there's a new website coming, which should be available by the time we're releasing this. It's going to be Project Sentinel. So people have a lot to look forward to. If you like the London Center's content, you'll like the content of Project Sentinel. And I think it's going to, and London Center's not going away. It's just we're trying to take and create this to be a lot more aggressive, to be able to address these things a lot more aggressively than we have in the past. So
we'll have more information on the website. You'll find the link in the description, and keep an eye on this channel for further developments.
I have one thought for those people out there who are listening to us, who've gotten this far but who are still doubting. Continue to doubt. Doubting is an important part of what we do as human beings. Richard Feynman, who was perhaps on the short list of the greatest minds, scientific minds of the last 200 years, certainly in the top 10, a truly brilliant physicist, was fond of saying that science is the process of doubting experts. So when someone stands up and says X, and I don't care what it is, I don't care whether he's from the CDC or from NASA or from the Federal Reserve, and they say X, the first thing you should do is ask yourself, does that pass the makes sense test? One of the ones that I love to look at is the temperature data for the United States. And I would encourage you to go dig online. Don't take the top 20 sites, go past those, and dig online and look at the temperature data for the last 100 years. And keep asking the internet how the sensor data, the temperature data has been adjusted. Adjusted is an important word. Adjusted is used whenever any statistician is trying to come up with an answer he likes. He adjusts data. Look for raw data. Look for raw data, and then learn how to play with that raw data. You'll be amazed how hard it is to find raw data. No one likes giving out raw data. So I'd ask anybody out there who is doubting us, we're going to go back, we're going to spend a great deal of time going back to raw data and trying to figure out what it really means, because there's raw data out there about all of these issues, and they don't necessarily tell the story that is printed in the major newspapers.
Once again, find out more about Project Sentinel on our website. Link is in the description. As I said before, keep an eye on our channel for more information and future developments. I want to thank all of you for joining us for this session of Thought to Action. Once again, if you like what we put forth for you, hit the big red subscribe button, or the blue one if you're watching us on Rumble. I'm Chris Cordani for our panel here at Project Sentinel and the London Center for Policy Research. Enjoy the day and stay informed.